Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Today. I am Smita Prakash. By the year 2015, Bangladesh's population is expected to touch 190 million. It's already the 8th most populous country in the world. 43% of this 190 million will be under the age of 30. This means that planners have to make sure that the youth get access to education and then jobs. And they have to guard against the anger of educated unemployed out into the streets, agitating and indulging in violence out of a sense of frustration born out of unfulfilled ambitions. Are the leaders of Bangladesh aware of the challenges and how will they meet it? Economic growth in Bangladesh has historically been fueled by the garment industry, and this sector will continue to grow as China turns even more towards low-cost sources such as Bangladesh. The country's garment industry, which accounts for 80% of its $24 billion annual exports, has become the base of an economy that was once reliant on aid. Most of the people in this industry are young, both men and women. But of late, there have been horrific accidents in the garment industry, the most terrible of them being the Sawar factory collapse in Dhaka, in which more than 1,100 people lost their lives, most of them in their 20s and 30s. This calamity raised apprehensions about the deadly working conditions in which young men and women work to provide cheap clothing for rich nations. To add to this, the young workers who toil away for hours in dangerous conditions get pitifully low wages. Last week, their anger boiled over and they hit the streets in protest, demanding at least $100 per month in wages as opposed to $38, which they are currently getting paid. Nazma Akhtar of the United Garments Workers Federation, an umbrella organization made up of 52 garment workers groups, said that the workers will not settle for anything less than a substantial hike in their wages.
Today we are demanding 8,000 taka for the garments workers minimum wage. As you all know, the garments workers are earning 77% foreign currency in this country from the women workers, but our salary is very low. They are getting 3,000 taka. So now we are demanding 8,000 taka minimum wage for the garments workers.
The reason European and American companies outsource their garments from Bangladesh is because labor is cheap. If wages increase, costs increase. The fear then is that companies would then source from other countries. It's market economy at play. There are 50 million young people who are in the job market, and the domestic industry simply cannot absorb so many workers unless international companies step in, like the garment sector. Dr. Mohammad Samad, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Information Technology and Science, was of the view that industries other than the garment industry need to be encouraged. The IT industry has potential, he feels.
Apart from the garment industry, in Bangladesh the IT industry is growing, and our country is an agricultural country, that 80% people are dependent on agriculture. So, agri-based industry and side by side IT industry should be grown in our country, and it will create lot of jobs and foreign currency also. And one important thing here is important that our IT sector is exporting bandwidth to Tripura state and other underdeveloped state of southeastern India, southeastern. So, this is important. IT and agricultural industrial agri-based industrial development is important for food autarky, for our employment creation, for our overall economic development of the country. And apart from the garment industry, in my country IT industry also is becoming one of the growing industry, and side by side, as our country is a agricultural country, so we need to also establish or found some agri-based industry for creating the jobs of the I should say the people without education and the rural people also.
Bangladesh is planning to create 10 million jobs under the 5-year plan up to 2015. But economists say that it is an overly ambitious plan, as 1/3 of Bangladesh's workforce is finding employment overseas as the country cannot absorb them. With obstacles like unemployment and violent hartal culture of religious outfits, how much of the aspirations of the youth will be fulfilled remains to be seen. It is imperative to involve the youth in national development. Lack of jobs and lack of hope of a better future can lead to a social crisis. The IT industry needs trained manpower, and that requires training institutes and capital expenditure. Bangladesh will have to improve its literacy rate, its secondary and tertiary education to compete with other countries in the region. The IT industry in Bangladesh accounts for about $400 million in annual revenues, which is a very small share of the GDP of about $100 billion. The youth in Bangladesh have traditionally played a very important role. In 1952, they were in the forefront of the language movement. In 1969, a mass upsurge, and then in 1971, the Liberation War. Another major milestone in Bangladesh's youth movement was the Shahbag youth protest in 2013. Here is an example that is unparalleled in the world, a peaceful protest by the youth which sought to bring to justice war criminals. Many of those who were protesting at Shahbag Square this year were born after the Liberation War, that is after 1971. But they were politically sensitive and responsible citizens. The youth in Bangladesh are radically different. They don't blind themselves to the past. They seek closure via justice. This is a generation that values the Constitution. It values democratic processes and seeks to protect it from those who want to overthrow it openly or through insidious political battles. The Shahbag Square activists, educated members of civil society, want war criminals of 1971 to be brought to justice. The youth of Bangladesh used innovative means to make sure that their voices were heard. Bloggers and online activist networks instigated the call for protest against a court ruling that showed leniency towards a mass murderer. With the help of social media, news of the protest spread like wildfire. Soon a massive crowd of young people hit the streets in protest, demanding speedy trials and nothing short of the capital punishment for the perpetrators of the war crimes of 1971. Songs and poems, candlelight vigil and daytime protests. The youth of Bangladesh had taken over from their parents who suffered the atrocities of 1971.
In 5 February, in Kader Molla's judgment, younger people protest the verdict of court and they demand the death penalty of the Kader Molla. And after that, in 2 months or 1 month, a huge protestant began in Shahbag, and most of them are the younger. And you will think that the verdict, after that the verdict of another Jamaat leaders was invariably impacted on by this protest of the younger. And we already know that this is given a very serious issue to our political arena, because mainly younger was the force to create that protestant, but after that mass people was also included with these protestants. So I think it's a time to say that younger people in Bangladesh or youth generation plays a vital role in not only in our political arena but also in our social or development sectors like IT sector.
Shahbag became the center of youthful energy, projecting an essence of promise for an improved tomorrow. It provided a platform for the youth to be heard, a space that they carved out for themselves to engage in political activity and bring about a change in society. Academicians say that the Shahbag youth movement definitely left a lasting impression on the politics of Bangladesh.
Shahbag movement is by the young man or by the youth, for the youth and of the youth, and it created a lot of impacts among the young people of the country, particularly the students of the university, college, even schools. So, it will create a great impact in the politics of our country, and they make aware our young people all over the country, even all over the world also, in other countries also, because the movement spread over all over the world in favor of our great war of liberation, what we achieved at the cost of our lot of lives and other at the cost of our lives and martyrs and everything, because we achieved our liberation at the cost of our 30 lakhs martyrs. Our sisters were raped by the Pakistani army. So, the Shahbag movement created a great impact among the young people, youngsters like university students, college students, even school students, among all walks of people from all walks of lives participated in the Shahbag movement.
But the Jamaat-e-Islami and their student wing hit back in equal measure. They attacked shops and business establishments, burnt vehicles, attacked policemen, victimized minorities. It seemed like Bangladesh could be headed towards a civil uprising of sorts. But the Sheikh Hasina-led Awami League government refused to succumb to the blackmail tactics of the obscurantists. The International War Crimes Tribunal went on with the trials, and so did the Supreme Court. How did this youth movement of Bangladesh rank with other South Asian countries, which too have an ever-increasing youth population desperate to be heard and frustrated with the system? India especially has recently had its share of protest movements, of which the young people have been a key element. Though they may not have a common link as far as issues go, but they surely did as far as passion and energy is concerned. India had its anti-corruption protests before the Shahbag movement. It was in April 2011 when protesters, mostly the youth, came out in support of social activist Anna Hazare, who was sitting on a fast demanding a strong anti-corruption legislation. The protests spread all across the country, and young people thronged to Delhi's Ram Leela grounds, protesting day in and day out. Like Shahbag, this protest too drew international attention, and soon the political class had to accept its demands. Unfortunately, Pakistan has not seen a significant youth movement till now, though last year there was an anti-corruption movement started by religious leader ul-Qadri, but it did not have a prominent youth involvement as such. Maybe Pakistan is too fractured and unbalanced to initiate a mass youth movement. Channeling the energy of youth for social change needs to be done in a planned and systematic manner, else it could lead to bloody revolutions, social unrest or cynical dejection. Bangladesh is a young country with a bright future and a young population. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you for watching Bangladesh Today.